Hi, I'm Jock.
Hey, I'm Ray.
This week, Ray and Jock reveal where to find the person who will change your life and how lockdown has reminded us of the importance of social contact. So my worry was that this book was going to be dated by its position in time. But I think, certainly from the first chapter at least, I'm thinking, actually no. Most of this stuff is timeless and it doesn't really kind of hang off the whole internet boom thing.
And he says it, right?
Yeah.
This is why this book has stuck in my bag for so long. Is because he's not focused on the internet. He's bringing us back to, this executive boasting to him that he started and ended a contract entirely via email. And he just picks apart the truth there and he says, well, how did you meet this person? Oh, no, you met them at a golf tournament. Okay, and then you built a friendship and you went out for meals. And then you did the contracting over the internet, which is fine, right? We get that tools make life easier, like the telephone did. But the fact is you built a relationship with this human being.
Yeah, exactly.
To enable the rest of the stuff. And it's even more poignant now, right? We're all under a stay-at-home order from the government. And, I'm here talking to you. There are probably things, trade-off decisions that members of the team want to ask me, but because there's a tax to pressing a button and thinking about interrupting me, they're not going to have that conversation. Whereas sitting next to me, yes, it's the opposite problem. We're going to distract each other even more and probably be differently less productive. But at the same time, we're going to be less misaligned.
Mm. Yeah.
There's this just real prescience to the message about having street smarts in an internet age, right? There are, lots more people now dealing with endless Zoom meetings all day long. Is that healthy? Absolutely not. Is it productive? Unlikely. How are you coping with it? Do you know how to cope with it? What are the options that we could do to better engage with the people that we need to engage with? Are we missing out on engaging with people that we should be engaging with, like family? I quipped recently that we're not working from home; we're living at work.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the work, the whole sort of context for deliberate mental separation between work stuff and home stuff, I think, has been lost entirely by the fact that a lot of people are working from home offices, the kitchen table, the couch, the floor.
It used to be clear that when I came through the front door, I was there for the kids, right? They would run into my arms. Now they've trained themselves when I come in through the back door from our office. Daddy, have you finished your calls?
Oh.
Very specific, knowing that if I haven't, I'm not ready to play. And it's heartbreaking.
Mm. Hopefully, yeah.
When I walk into the home, I should be there for them.
Yes.
But I'm not. I'm potentially thinking about something deeply, and I'm just coming to get a glass of water or eat or go to the toilet.
Mm.
And really, I should have come in for them.
Yeah. Hopefully, we will not be in this situation for much longer in the relative scheme of things.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things people are underestimating, right? We've been in this for almost a year now.
Yeah. And we're only just at the position where we can start digging ourselves out of the hole. Yeah.
And honestly, it's a virus, right? I think I think it's a Michael Bay film that's coming out where the premise is it's now 2025 and COVID-24 has just mutated.
Yeah. Oh.
And I think we just need to understand that this is a virus. It's like the flu. The flu kills many people every year, even though we try and immunize those most vulnerable against it. But I think we need to just have from a governmental stance a view that we need to adapt to this, but get back to life as we did with the flu. I think this locking ourselves away to save the NHS and keep the NHS ticking over is a lack in planning, right? We're spending multi-billions on trying to keep the economy ticking over while tanking the economy, frankly. Whereas, solving the NHS's problem was actually very easy to do, right?
Sure. I mean, to be fair, whilst I don't necessarily agree with the timing, shall we say, of many of the decisions that have taken place over the last year or so, now that we're in a position where we've now got, I think, 3 vaccines. So I think that only today, in the UK, they've signed off the Moderna vaccine as well now for use, although it won't be available to the spring. But the point being is now we're at least in the position where we have things that are, at least on the variants we have at the moment, effective, up to 90% effective, which is a very different scenario to, other viruses, like flu, or so on and so on, where they can't necessarily immunize the population to the extent whereby eradication is possible.
It is.
It'll never go away, but can certainly be contained.
I think it's wrong. I think Taiwan got it right, where they did track and trace to the nth degree. They will, the police will come to your house and say, "You stay here because you've got a positive test. Do not go anywhere else." And I think we messed up track and trace, and we didn't place enough importance on it. Also, and we've heralded the vaccine as the magic bullet, whereas actually I think track and trace so that we can go out and, if somebody gets a positive test, when they enter public transport or when they enter an office building, then they are isolated and you trace whoever they've been in contact with, I think is actually the solution. And we struggle with that. So we've turned to the vaccine as
for sure.
That is going to solve all the problems. And when and it's not if, when this virus mutates.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, we know, yeah. And then there's the next one after that. But in terms of at least giving us an opportunity to minimize the risks of or I think a combination of different approaches are needed. I think it's not going to be one thing. It's not going to be one thing or the other. It's going to be a combination of all of those things. But you're right. There are certain things that should have been done better. But as I said, I'm quietly optimistic that we'll get to a position where we can at least through whatever mechanism go back to more social contact in a way that gets us out of this particular situation where everyone's under lockdown or under stay-at-home restrictions.
The hesitation to my optimism is that they haven't learned. They haven't learned that if there is a flare-up in cases, they don't know how to do track and trace.
Right.
Therefore, they're going to shut us down again and again and again until somebody says, actually, this isn't the correct thing to do. Actually, track and trace is the right thing to do. And there are models. Taiwan does it in a phenomenal way. Taiwan in March was producing 1 million tests a day. We've only recently got to manufacturing 1 million tests a day. And obviously that's a smaller population over there.
Yeah.
I think the really interesting thing at the beginning of this was people coming together to help each other. That was beautiful. In this modern society where we're all glued to our phones and we're all so busy, people taking the time for each other, that was a real reminder that, we should all be in it together.
It takes us nicely back to the book. So the first chapter, the first section is called Giving Yourself a Reality Check. And in that first section, there's kind of a few different lessons. So the first one is the person who will change your life is not in it now. So
it's, when I read that first chapter, it changed my whole outlook. We are so quick as human beings to make judgments and decisions, and we're self-satisfied with it as well, right? Look how quickly I made a decision.
Yes.
And this chapter says that the person that identifies a problem might not necessarily be the best person to solve it. And we tend to lock ourselves in a room with the same people to solve problems over and over again.
Yes.
And then we wonder why we didn't solve the problem. There's that, maybe the person that is going to change your life the most isn't in your life yet.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, for me, what it reminds me of is sort of the mantra that kind of keeps going around in user research, which is the answers you're looking for are outside the building. So your users, the people who are using your product or using your service, are outside the building. But what people, again, tend to miss about that, it's not just about the value of doing user research or market research or customer research. And, rather than just, having an echo chamber of ideas within your own organization, it's also the fact that by the very act of going out there and talking to people you haven't spoken to before, you're exposing yourself to new perspectives, new ideas. It challenges ways of thinking. It opens up neural pathways. It gets you literally thinking about the problem in a different way, which you just wouldn't get if you were always talking through the same things with the same group of people. No matter how good or interesting or intelligent or creative those people might be, there's always going to be a sort of a limit to those light bulb moments you get when you deliberately go out there and talk to people.
Yeah, totally. And I think a lot of sales managers, people in charge of winning business, they manage their team on the wrong metrics. If you were managing on like revenue growth, what the hell are you going to do when COVID hit, right? What are your staff going to do? How are they going to feel motivated? Well, you know what I did is I started calling everybody that I've ever spoken to. And turns out that what we built on the mortgage side there is useful to people. And so when I started this business, it's like, no, we'd never partner. The only thing we're doing right now is partnering. We've set aside the free to list for the time being so that we can focus. And, there is a counterpoint to the whole, the person who's going to make the most impact on you is not in your life right now. Because actually the person who's going to make the most impact is you. And so, yes, you should absolutely speak to lots of new people. And I think it's very valuable to have that addition of new perspective. But also, I think there's a lot to be said about meditation.
So reflecting on what you've been learning or what you've been thinking about. Yeah.
So I'm Muslim. I pray. And yes, I'm supposed to be concentrating on praying. But it's very easy for the mind to because it's now relaxed, to exercise itself and go a bit more lateral. And I'm a dad, and so I love thinking and reading and watching stuff about parenting because it's so fundamentally important to my future. And there's this great line that somebody said. I can't attribute it properly, but there's nothing wrong with your kids being bored, because in those moments of boredom is where creativity is. And there's nothing wrong with them being bored because they'll find the creative outlet.
I would always make a point, even if I didn't need to go into London on the train. So I live about sort of 40, 50 minutes train ride away from London. And when I was able to do so easily, even if I didn't have anybody to meet in London or a reason to go in specifically, I would still go in and out at least once a week, because the 40, 50 minute train journey was an opportunity for me to be bored. And in that boredom, as you say, you reflect on things, you think of things that you wouldn't ordinarily have done, and things occur to you when you've got nothing else to do basically, and you're going in and out of tunnels, so you don't have a decent phone connection and all that kind of stuff. And I find that kind of deliberately forcing some time for a bit of introspection, a bit of reflection, a bit of just thinking time is something that, to be honest, even before lockdown and endless back-to-back Zoom meetings, that we were kind of losing before. We didn't give ourselves a chance to think. We didn't give ourselves, carve out time to think rather than do. So that's something I think which very much resonates with me.
Now that we've got video on demand, Netflix, YouTube, Disney Plus, we've always got something interesting to watch. Whereas before, when it was all programmed, there were moments where it was effing boring and you had to go something else to do.
But there's absolutely nothing on telly. Or most of the 80s.
There is no one complains that there's nothing on TV anymore, right? Because you can't.
There's too much. There's too much.
Netflix have done a phenomenal job of producing an incredible volume of quality content. Disney Plus, they had unfair advantage with all the content that they've aggregated over the years. But and this is phenomenal from a business perspective. They anticipated that they'd have 50 million subscribers in 5 years' time.
86 million after 1 year?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, Disney Plus is astonishing. I mean, sure, the COVID effect has certainly helped the growth, but, and this is, you read Ben Thompson's Stratechery, don't you? So he talks a great deal about content aggregators, as I'm sure you well know. And it's just that interesting thing about how Disney Plus, more so even than Netflix, because Disney, as you say, had this advantage of a massive back catalogue of cherished content that a load of people, yeah, exactly, that parents were familiar with, that kids were familiar with. You can't beat that.
My whole childhood is on that thing. Tailspin, DuckTales, Little Rescue Rangers, Gummy Bears, Spider-Man cartoons.
Yeah.
I can still sing you the DuckTales theme tune right now.
I won't get you to. But yeah, so where are we going with that? So subscription services, time to think, too much choice almost. So
can't be bored anymore.
Yeah. We don't, it's much harder to allow ourselves to be bored.
While fresh perspective, new information is very valuable and should be pursued, I think there should also be some time for boredom or reflection or meditation to also be pursued. Without that, we'll suffer, we'll stress ourselves too much. Anything in excess is too much.
You're listening to the Pig Wrestlers podcast. We're meant to be reviewing the book Never Wrestle With A Pig by Mark McCormack, but we don't always get around to it.